Welcome back to Making a Brewery episode number 18. So it's been a couple of weeks since my last video and it's been a hectic couple of weeks. So what's been going on? Obviously on the last video we did our first brew day on the Braumeister 200 litre and since that point it's been utter chaos, to be honest. Things have got a bit crazy. So the big news, I suppose, is that we finally have our beers into an off license in Belturba, the Yukon bar, which I'll show you a picture of now. So really exciting to have our beers finally for sale. It is only one off license so far, but we've had a really great response from them so far. We dropped them up 3 cases, a case of the stout, a case of the lager and a case of the red ale as well. Those obviously the lager and the red ale were from pilot kits that I brewed already, not the ones on the big system, but we wanted to get them out to sale to test the market with them. They've gone really well. So that was about a week ago we got them out into the Yukon off license in Belturba, and already I got a phone call today to say they were all out of stock and asking for us to drop up more stock, which is a really nice problem to have. Also had a really good conversation with the owner of the Stray Sod in Drung, County Cavan, and they are really excited about our beers. They tried all 4 of them and want to stock all 4 in the bar itself. They get a lot of passing trade and tourism or tourists passing through there who are often looking for a local beer, so they really want to stock our beers, and that was really nice. So big thank you to Eamon and Wayne up in the Stray Sod up in Drung. We'll be getting our beers up there in the next few weeks once we have stocked up. What else has been going on since I last spoke to you? Well, a lot of brewing, a lot of mishaps, a lot of stress, an awful lot of stress, believe me. But it's still exciting at the same time. Really busy. I'm down here most evenings, the weekends, brewing, fixing a lot of stuff actually, which I'll talk you through in a few moments, and just trying to get the place up to scratch and to enable our ability to produce as much beer as possible and as fast as possible as well. So let me talk you through a few of the things that have been going on. Just let me grab the camera. So I guess first things first is, you may notice on the wall we have some merch. So these are our initial range of t-shirts, which are the logo and brewed in Cavan with Gra. For our non-Gaelic speaking viewers, that essentially means brewed in Cavan with love. Gra is the Irish word for love. Just zoom in there. So we have them in red, green and white logo. I expect to have many more t-shirts plus colours quite soon, but it's nice to have those in there for the moment. I'm not shipping those just yet, or we're still trying to sort out an online shop on the website, but yeah, if you're calling in for a brewery tour or a brew school, of course you can pick up a t-shirt as well, or if you want to just pop by someday. What else have I been up to? So it became apparent quite quickly after a couple of brews that me using my grainfather as my sparge water heater just wasn't going to cut it. So I went out and bought this thing a couple of days ago. So that's the 65 litre Digiboil. It's essentially, I think, very similar to the Brewzilla. It can be converted into a all-in-one system. You can buy a malt pipe and stuff like that for it, but as it functions at the moment, it's essentially 65 litre sparge water heater for me at the moment. I know the original plan was to turn this into a HLT, but I think just as for my needs, I don't really need 500 litres of hot water. So yeah, that's just my Oro water storage tank for the moment, and the 65 litre will do the job for my sparge water, because I'm not going to need more than 65 litres of sparge water with this system. Bit of a disaster on my second brew day. So you'll see The brew kettle is steaming away here at the moment because I'm trying to get it up to boil because I had to replace the element. So halfway through, let me just flip the camera around to see, can I? So halfway through our brew day, on about 10 days ago or something like that, I was brewing the Lanidrum West Cavan Pale Ale. So halfway through the brew, the whole system shut down. The whole electricity shut off. It tripped out. So I was in a bit of a panic, didn't know what was going on, trying to figure out what was blowing the electricity, and realized that, actually, let me just stick this on a tripod. So yeah, the system tripped out, and I was trying to figure out which piece of electrical equipment had blown the fuse. So I think it was the RCD, or DC, RCD, something switch which tripped. So I went around, the mash obviously was in the middle of the mash, went around plugging everything out, trying to figure out if I plugged things back in, was it tripping again, etc. So after about 15 minutes, I rang my electrician, and he says it's most likely one of the elements within the Braumeister. And he remembered, obviously, that there was 3 separate elements in there, and that if you plug each one out and then, you know, untrip the switch and then plug them back in again, you'll be able to find out which element is causing the issue, causing the fuse board to trip. So I did that. That took probably 10 minutes or so as well, and eventually figured out it was one of the elements in here. So I didn't know whether, look, it was halfway through the mash. At this stage, probably the full mash had been done. It was 60 minutes probably in at this stage. So I didn't know whether to dump it or what to do, but realized that 2 elements were still working. So I probably mistakenly, and I realize this now, I left the mash on for another 30 minutes. Once I got it back up and running again and all the fuses and the bad element plugged out, I decided to run the rest of the mash with 2 elements. Now, at this stage, that was probably an hour and a half of a mash, which was way too much. But I did manage to keep it at temperature, and then I decided, okay, let's see, can I get it up to boil? It did take an eternity to get up to boil, but I did manage to get a 60-minute boil out of it. It wasn't the most vigorous rolling boil that you've ever seen, but it was all right, and finished off the brew day, got it into the tank, pitched the yeast, etc. So all good. But what I've realized since then is the beer has over attenuated quite a lot. It was supposed to finish at around 1.009, and it's finished around 1.006, so 3 gravity points below where it should have finished, and I think that's because of the extended mash. So long story short on this, managed to get a new element delivered from Spiedel today, and I called the electrician, and luckily he was in the local area and came out and refitted the element in here. So let me see, can you see this? I'm not sure if you will, but it was that element there. So I think what may have caused that to trip was after brew day number 1, I didn't give the system a good enough clean, and I think there might have been some beer stone on the element that caused it to trip and die essentially. I just suspect that's what's happened. I don't know if that's the case. What else has been going on? So obviously that was a bit stressful, but we managed to get it into the tank. So the Lanidrum Pale Ale is in tank number 1, this one here, of the brew tools. So let me just zoom out ever so slightly. So then the next problem started to emerge where, yes, we pitched at temperature. I think we pitched at, I don't know, 21 degrees and decided to, or 20, I don't know, a little bit higher than where we're aiming for, 19 degrees, but I decided to let the chiller do the rest of the work. However, what I noticed was when the chiller was kicking in, it was being a bit too powerful and it was lowering the temperature a bit too much, for well below 19. But but it was also sucking in liquid from the airlock up here. Now that's a solenoid valve on that, but that was my fault essentially, because I hadn't set a positive head pressure in that fermenter. So for the first couple of days, the temperature was a little bit off, and then when I finally got it to stabilize and put the positive head pressure on there, so it wasn't sucking in star san every time the cooler kicked in. Yeah, we finally got it to stabilize, but then a bit of a disaster insofar as, well, not really a disaster, but it wasn't holding temperature. So once it was kind of nearly finished fermentation, bumped it up for a diacetyl rest, but it was struggling to get up to 21 degrees, and it was dropping temperature overnight. So I didn't buy the heating element portion for the brew tools for the F300s. However, based off what was happening with the tank where it wasn't really holding temperature, I did have to go out and purchase 2 of these monstrosities. Very phallic, but they'll do the job. So for the next batch, I'll hook these up to both fermenters. I have 2 of these, 1 in each fermenter, and I had to also buy the external or module relay to power this as well. So going forward, I'll be able to fully control fermentation temperatures in both of those tanks, because yeah, I just don't think without this heating element in Ireland, when it gets cold at night, the tanks are just not going to hold the temperature I want them to hold at. So yeah, it does need some gentle heating in there. So another stressful thing, I guess, that happened with this, ordered it, it took 2 weeks to arrive, and when it arrived, it was the wrong voltage. They had sent me the 110 volt as opposed to the 230. Now, luckily, the guys at Brew Tools did expedite the mistake that they made. Essentially, I had to ship the 2 that I had received at 110 volts back to them, and they shipped these new ones out to me, and I had them within 3 days, even though the first lot took 2 weeks to get to me. So fair play to them for that. They admitted their mistake, and they got it back to me really, really fast and rectified the mistake. Okay, let's move on. So, like I mentioned, the Lanidrum is in that tank there. The lager, the Irish lager McCree, is in that tank there. And you may be looking at these tanks and thinking, they weren't like that the last time. What's happened? So what we have decided to do, so that's what those 240 litre tanks should look like. However, based on the experience that I had with these guys in the lack of heating and the tanks losing temperature, I decided to insulate these tanks, which is a really, really good move as well. And what I've also done, based on some feedback that I received from one of the members of the Rockstar Brewer Academy, is, okay, so let me talk you through this. I will do a video on this actually in the next few days or so, or next week maybe. So this thing here is, what exactly is it called? It's a 12 meter cable, 100 watt, and it emits heat. It's for putting in lizard enclosures and things like that to maintain the temperature. So I put double-sided tape around the Speedle fermenter, wrapped this around the base, and then this plugs in to an external ink board to control the temperature. So let's say I set the temperature at 19 degrees. Then we fully insulated it twice with this insulation from Screwfix. It's fairly accessible. I think it's 50 quid a roll for 8 meters or something like that. So give it a double insulation, and then using this kind of aluminium tape, wrap that around there as well. So this is really robust and solid. So that was the heating source sorted for this tank. But then I went out and bought the Kegland G40 chiller, which you can see here. And again, I have another story and drama about this chiller. So This chiller is only designed probably for maybe 4 60-litre fermenters maximum, but I've bought it obviously for 240-litre. Now, I'm fully aware that I'm not going to be able to control 4 fermenters at any one time with that chiller, but it does have the ability to control 4 different fermenters. So realistically, I'm only going to have 1 fermenter in cold crash at any given time, and maybe need others to have a little bit of control. So I think it's going to do the job. It's a 30-litre tank in there, whereas the other chiller that I have for the 2 brew tools is a 45-litre tank. So I think it'll do the job. So let me talk to you a little bit about the drama. So we bought this, and then we also, I'm gonna sit down here, see can I? We also bought these insulated glycol tubes from Kegland. Now, these are the only insulated glycol tubes that Kegland sell, and they are 13 mil inner diameter on those tubes. So you would assume, based on the fact that they're the only ones that Kegland sell, that they would fit onto the barbs of this chiller. Unfortunately not. The barbs are 10 mil. So these were quite loose on those barbs. So to counteract that, I went out and bought, bear with me a second, 2 seconds. Grab this from the office. So, to counteract the small barbs on here, I decided to buy these Jointech fittings. You can probably see those there. Jointech. So these are advertised by Kegland as an upgrade to this system. Okay, so I went out and bought these connectors, which are supposed to fit onto this chiller, and then this thing here is the opposite end. This this kind of clicks on like this and gives you a watertight seal. Okay, so that's the way that's supposed to work, and then that obviously that 13 mil barb goes onto your 13 mil hoses. However, once I received this and went to put it on to the edge of the chiller and fit it onto the chiller, I realized that the hole on this is much more than the hole on this. And this had been marketed by Kegland as an upgrade to this. So I reached out to Kegland, and unfortunately they told me that this is a different model to what this fits onto, and they don't sell that model in Europe. So essentially tough luck. They weren't very accommodating in my view. In my view, they missell these, plus those hoses as well, because if the hoses don't fit the barbs, then they're pretty, you know, not useless. I'm sure they fit onto some systems, but why sell those hoses if all of your barbs on your chiller system are 10 mil and the hoses are 13 mil? They're not going to fit. And then why sell these if they don't fit onto here? The only way they will fit on here is if I actually drill a hole in here to make the hole bigger, and I was told that that would invalidate my warranty on here as well. I'll show you other solutions that I've tried to come up with on this. So I've also purchased these kind of barb connectors. So my initial solution has been to hook a smaller diameter tube into the bigger diameter tube. So I had some of these leftover 10 millimeter or 8 millimeter inner diameter tubes. So essentially what I've done is hooked the bigger tube onto this and then put a Jubilee clip over it. But it's not very secure. I wouldn't be overly confident that it wouldn't fall off or if it took a bit of a bump. So what I think I'm going to do is join those 2 hoses together. So this one will connect onto the 8 mil, I think, barb, and then this one is for the 13 mil barb, so I can successfully clamp those together and fit them on. So that's one option. I did also go out and buy some 13 mil diameter connectors. I don't think that's going to be the right solution either. I've been wasting a lot of money on trying to fix this. And then I also have this 13 mil by 13 mil screw on fitting, so it'll screw onto the inside and outside, and I can connect a bigger hose on there. However, again, I would probably need to drill the hole a smidgen bigger to make sure that fits. So yeah, kind of, I'll be honest, the whole thing around connectors and which size inner diameter, outer diameter, barb fittings has really busted my brain over the last few weeks. Sorry, I'm going to turn off the kettle here. I was just testing that element to see it was working correctly, but it's steaming up the place over here, so I'm going to just turn off the heat. I'll come back. So yeah, that's really kind of busted my brain over the last week trying to figure out how to get this all set up. But long story short, it is working now. I basically have the heating band, which is wrapped around this, plugged into an ink board and set to 21 degrees at the moment. And I also have the chiller set to 21 degrees at 20.8 at the moment. What I plan to do going forward is actually get rid of the ink board. This chiller, you can hook a heating relay up inside, and maybe I'll do a video on that in the future. Other people have done a video on it before. So ideally, I'll just be using the one controller on here to control heat and cool. I won't need the secondary ink board. Yeah, so that's maybe something I will do going forward. So I've wrapped these two, or when I say I've wrapped them, actually my wife has done these. She's done a really good job. Alex is much more diligent than I am and much more neat than I am. So I've helped her obviously, but she's done all the work in terms of wrapping these, and they work really, really well. Like essentially these tanks are holding temperature better than those at the moment. So that's phenomenally good. So there is a red ale in here at the moment. That went in, well, I brewed that on Saturday. So yeah, that's a few days in the tank at the moment. And I may go another beer into that one at the weekend. I don't know, or if one of these becomes available. So these are both in cold crash at the moment. The Lanidrum Pale Ale and the McCree Irish Lager. So if I free up one of those tanks this week, I can brew into those. Essentially, I need to brew into these tanks for the lager, and sorry, just let me, there's something beeping over here. We have a temperature error. Okay, not sure what's causing that. So this one has the carbonation stone. So at the moment, if I can get this cold crashed and clear by the weekend, I can carbonate it up quite quickly and get it out of the tank, clean it, and then the plan is to transfer, hopefully if this is dropped clear, transfer this into that tank for carbonation. The reason I have to do the pale ale and the lager in these tanks are the option of dry hopping in these. Not that I'm dry hopping the lager, but I do need to use some finings in the lager, so I need to use the dry hop port to get those finings into the lager. And obviously for the pale ale, I have got a dry hop charge in there, so I do need the dry hop port. These other tanks don't have the option of a dry hopper, and they're not pressure rated either. So some limitations on there as well. What else do I got to tell you guys about? Yeah, so yeah, those beers, there's 3 in the tanks. I'm very kind of stressed and nervous about how they're going to turn out. The stout turned out really well, actually. Sorry, let me show you this. So there's our stout is boxed and bottled and everything already. So I was able to get the stout done in probably 10 days or so. It was before it was completely finished fermentation, diacetyl rest, cold crashed, and it literally took me 30 minutes to carbonate the stout. That's how good the carb stone is in this. Apply some head pressure, apply your carbonation stone in here, and the literature was telling me that I should leave it for about 5 hours. I checked it after 30 minutes, spot on carbonation after 30 minutes. And I checked that with a device I have for checking carbonation. bang on 2.1 volumes of CO2, exactly where I wanted my probably actually a little bit slightly more carbonated than I wanted, but 30 minutes and it's fully carbed. So that's pretty good with the F300. What else has been going on? Let me just zoom you back over here. We had our first brewery tour last week, or even a week and a half ago, I think, which was great. Just 2 people in, lovely couple who come down to visit us, and we did the brewery tour for about 35-40 minutes, and then they tasted some of the beers as well, and they were really impressed. And yeah, that was really exciting to have that. We also had our first brew school last week. So we had a really nice guy by the name of Sean who came in for that. We were supposed to have a couple of others, but we had, there was a lot of protests going on in Ireland last week, and some people couldn't make it on the day. So we went ahead just with the one guy, Sean. He had paid his money, so I wasn't going to cancel at the last minute on him. He was fairly knowledgeable about beer. He's been researching about getting into homebrewing for a while. So we brewed our pale ale together. It's actually in the grain father there at the moment, the grain father fermenter, and it's cold crashing at the moment, so hopefully that will be ready soon. The plan is to bottle that up and allow Sean to come back and collect some of his bottles. So that's it. That's kind of where we're at the moment. Hopefully this video is not being too boring. I know I've been waffling on and talking about all the problems that I'm having, but that being said, it is a really exciting time. It's a very busy time. I'm just really eager to get beers out of those tanks and out into the shops. It's kind of hard to sell something when you don't actually have the physical product there. I've lots of interest from various people around buying the beers and wanting to stock the beers, but I need to actually get those beers ready and out into bottles, into cases, and out the door, which is the next step. So I'll come back in the next week or two and probably do a video about showing you how I wrap those tanks and put the temperature control system in place with those, and hopefully I'll have some updates as well on new stockists for the beer, potentially some new merch. Oh, I didn't show you some other merch we have. So my wife has been also making up some beautiful tote bags, which have our logo as well. And we have some caps. There you go. So if you're interested in any of our merch, let us know. Although we don't have the online shop set up just yet, I'm always happy to take payment through Revolut, and we can post it on to you if you're interested in one of our t-shirts or any of the caps or the bags or other bits and bobs that we have. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button. If you don't already do so, please subscribe to the channel. Obviously, a lot of you liked our last Brew Day video, so I will do more of those. Probably one of the best videos in terms of watch time that we've had was the last Brew Day video. So I'll do some more of those. We gained a ton of new subscribers as well, so welcome to all of you. But thank you for watching today, and I look forward to chatting to you again soon. Cheers.